Right, so you got a brand new phone, congrats. But now you're probably wondering, do I really need a case for this thing? On the one hand, you want to keep it looking all nice and new. On the other, nobody wants a cracked screen a week later. So actually, since phones are getting so much more powerful, that also smaller these days, heat is a factor too. So today, we're going to break down this whole phone case situation. We'll be looking at some seriously tough cases from Urban Armor Gear and even some really interesting research on a material called phase change material that could revolutionize how we keep our phones cool. So let's start with the obvious. Cases protect your phone. I think we've all seen it. You drop your phone and it's got that spider web of cracks across the screen. A case is basically insurance against that. You probably spent a lot of money on that phone, so protecting your investment just makes sense. Even a slim case can really help. But you're right. Think about heat too. Especially of all the power packed in those slim designs. A lot of cases made from TTU, which is great at absorbing shock, but not so great at letting heat escape. Now, for everyday use, a case probably won't cause any noticeable problems, but if you're really pushing your phone, like gaming or fast charging, heat can definitely build up. And here's why that matters. Heat can shorten your battery life over time, and it can even make your phone slow down, which is called throttling. So you got to balance protection with heat management, especially with a new phone. As we have protection, we got to try out some cases from Urban Armor Gear. They call it UAG for short, and they're known for being super rugged, the ones we checked out. Actually meet military drop test standards. That means they survive some serious drops. They got raised edges to protect your screen and camera. And some even have cool stuff built in, like stands. I even read a review where somebody dropped their phone with a UHE stout case on concrete, and the phone was fine. The case itself wasn't even scuffed. So they're definitely tough, which is great for peace of mind, especially if you tend to drop your phone. But even in a tough case, it can still be an issue, and that's where things get really interesting. Scientists are actually looking into a new material called phase change material, or PCM. And this stuff can actually absorb and release heat as it changes states, like between solid and liquid, kind of like ice melting. It takes in heat to change from solid to liquid. PCMs who do this at different temperatures, and researchers are experimenting with using them in phone heat sinks to regulate temperature. Imagine that. Your phone case actually helping to cool your phone down. One study even showed that aluminum heat sinks with PCM and internal fins were really good at keeping a phone cool during normal use. It's still early days, but this technology could really change the game. So you've got cases that offer great protection, but might trap some heat. And then you've got this potential future tech that could keep phones cool without a bulky case. So what's the best move right now? Well, take a close look at the UAG Scout series of phones like the Samsung Galaxy A15 and A35. They're pretty slim for how tough they are. And guess what? They're designed with these channels for airflow. This is exactly what we want. Plus, they meet those military drop test standards. So you know they could take a hit. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Military drop test standards. What does that even mean? Basically, it means these cases are tested to withstand drops from different heights and onto different surfaces, out of concrete. They're put through a lot to make sure they can handle real-world situations. So, with these UAG Scout cases, seem like they offer a good balance of protection and airflow. But no matter what case you go with, you've got to remember to pay attention to your phone's temperature, especially during those more demanding tasks. Like if it's feeling really warm, you might want to take the case off for a bit, let it cool down. And no matter what case you choose, I'd always recommend a good screen protector too. It's like an extra layer of defense against those everyday scratches and bumps, even if you're really careful. So we talked about the benefits of cases and the whole heat thing. We looked at some tough options like the UAD Scout series. Yeah, but what about those phase change materials? What kind of PCMs are researchers looking into? And how do they actually work? Well, one type of PCM they're exploring, it's called paraffin wax. You might know it from candles, but it's also really good at absorbing and releasing heat. There's another type called a solid hydrate, which works in a similar way. They basically act like tiny heat sponges, soaking up excess heat when your phone gets warm, and then releasing it as the phone cools down. The cool thing is, these PCMs have different melting points. So by choosing the right PCM, researchers can kind of fine-tune how they work in a phone case. Imagine this. You're playing a really graphics-intensive game, and your phone starts heating up. The PCM in your case starts to melt, absorbing that extra heat and keeping your phone from getting too hot. Then, when your phone cools down, the PCM solidifies again, releasing the stored heat. It's kind of like having a tiny built-in air conditioner for your phone, only way smaller and more efficient. But there's still some challenges. PCMs can get a little bulky, and they have to be integrated into the case in a way That effectively transfers heat away from the phone. Plus, there's the cost factor, using PCMs in phone cases, or we may be more expensive. So you might not see PCM-powered phone cases on the market tomorrow, but it's definitely a promising area of research. Now, going back to those UAG cases we tried out, I did notice a couple of downsides. They can be a bit bulky, which shows you those are the extra features, like the built-in stands, yeah, and they already beat. Bonnie's, while they offer amazing protection, they don't have a ton of different styles or colors. So if you look for something super slim and fashionable, UAG might not be the best fit. But if you really prioritize protection and durability, that's just if you dropped your phone a lot, those UAG cases are definitely worth checking out. At the end of the day, the best case for you is going to depend on your individual needs and priorities. Do you absolutely need the maximum level of protection? Or is a slimmer case more your style? Are you worried about heat? Probably not a big deal for you. And how much are you willing to spend? Once you've thought about all that, you can narrow down your choices and find the perfect case for your new phone. But before we wrap things up Lactinian style, I wanted to leave you with this thought. What if those scientists really nailed this PCM tech? Would we even need cases in the future? Like we imagine, phones that can handle all that power and heat without needing any extra protection. It's pretty mind-blowing, especially with how fast technology is moving these days. So sounds a Lactinian style like a phone case. We covered the good and the bad. Check out some cool materials like PCMs, and even got hands-on with those tough cases from Urban Armor Gear. At the end of the day, the choice is yours. Whether you go for maximum protection, prioritize style, or maybe even hold out for that future tech. Hopefully this Lactinian style breakdown helped you figure out what's best for your new phone.